Hello everyone, and welcome to Oyate Speaks TV. Today we are in Sharon, Connecticut, at Lynchfield County, Connecticut, in Abigail Hill Farm with the Schaghticoke First Nation. Today here on the show today we have Sachem, Cheif, Hawk, Storm.
Glad to be here, Neil. Thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's an honor to be here. And next we have AlondaTPowell-Johnson.
Thank you for having us. This is a wonderful opportunity.
And we'll go to Sachem, Cheif, Hawk, Storm.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Very good, very good. I'm glad to be here.
It's an honor and pleasure to have you on Oyate Speaks TV.
I love it. I'm glad you finally made it out here.
Yeah. If you would like to explain a little more about the Schaghticoke First Nation to the people on, who the Schaghticoke First Nation people are.
Well, Schaghticoke is it's an amalgamation of the surviving tribes of New England during the 1600s, during the Pequot War, during the King Philip's War, when basically all our tribes were decimated and fleeing for safety and being rounded up, and we ended up in upstate New York in Rensselaer County, and in Old Schaghticoke, and that's where we ended up having a Witnadmat. Witnadmat is a gathering of the elders, basically, and they did a Witnadmat treaty with New France, New England, and New York. So it was Governor Andros and our chiefs, my great-grandfathers, and got together, and they brought the tribes together and did a treaty so that we would work with them to help stop King Philip's, who was at that time working with the French. So we all came together and formed the Witnadmat Treaty in 1676. That's when we all became Schaghticoke. But at that time we were Abenaki, Micmac, Pequot, Narragansett. Many tribes came together. We even had some Mohawk scouts that were there, and we all came together and formed the treaty and helped stop King Philip's, which is ironic because King Philip's is actually my uncle also. On another side, because Massasoit was my 12th great grandfather. And the interesting thing about Schaghticoke is that we are actually the royal families of all the surviving tribes of the East Coast. So they all came together in the Witnadmat Treaty, all that were rescued, that survived the Holocaust of the King Philip's War and the Pequot War, that they call it. It was, my grandfather was Saskins at that time, and he brought us, I'm going to get into Dover because we're going to talk about the cultural center that we want to do in Dover, but he brought us us into Dover and hid us in a cave in Dover. And then went up to get solace or help from the Mohawks, who were against everything was, you know, screwed up back then. So, you know, the tribes went with who they thought they would survive better with at the time, and it happened to be that the Mohawks were working with the other side, who were looking for Saskis when he went up there for help. But he hid us in the old stone church in Dover, and before he went up to the Mohawks to gain help. Unfortunately for him, it didn't work out too well for him, and the Mohawks handed his scalp to the English. But you know, we were saved, you know, and his people were saved, and they were some of the refugees that from the war that ended up going up to upstate New York, into Rensselaer County. So, and then you have stories like that from all of our families coming from the different tribes, that they were, you know, rescued, you know, the families were pushed out, and the other families, as you know how our culture is, you know, would take the brunt of it to make sure that their tribe could continue. So they all ended up there. So we ended up doing this treaty. We ended up becoming Schaghticoke, which technically just means the mingling of waters. The waters of the tribes coming together. And that's how we became Schaghticoke. You know, we ended up later on moving down the coast, down to where they put the border of Connecticut and New York. We went down to Schaghticoke First, which is just above Dover. We had got involved with the Moravian missions. The Moravian mission taught my great-grandfather, the Gideon Malley, who was from Old Schaghticoke, and moved us down farther south and on the border of Connecticut, and then formed a village in New Schaghticoke, which was part of Dover Plains at the time. And that's where the res is today. It's slightly different now because they changed the border of Connecticut, but that's where the res is today. In Kent, well, bordering Kent. Bordering Kent. You know, that's our land, and we don't consider it part of New York or Connecticut because it is ours.
How big is it?
It's a lot smaller than it used to be. Now, I didn't want to get too political in this, because we want this to be more educational, and we want this to be more positive and what we want to do in moving forward. But yes, there are a lot of land transactions, I guess you could say, from overseers that were, you know, if you're tribal, you know what an overseer is. But that we're doing very sketchy land deals with our land, especially having to do with so-called medical issues and such. So. Sorry, I'm very distracted by the animals, but that's all right. Thank you. So many thousands of acres were stolen from us through time. The reservation was established in I want to say
early 1700s.
1720s, when Gideon, who was at this point baptized and was working with the Moravians, like I said, he helped the Moravians form the first Moravian mission over on the reservation at Schaghticoke. So apparently that was like a praying Indians situation, but it was a form of survival at the time, you know. Which we still have, the foundation of that church is still there. Yeah. Of course, Kent School claims it. But let's not get into So yeah, it was thousands and thousands of acres at the time. It was 7,000, 8,000 acres at the time.
Yeah.
And then at this point it's been whittled down to 400 acres of rock. There's no tillable land on the land that they're saying is ours. We can't use the water because Inland Wetlands Commission says that our water runs downhill to theirs. So they say that we can't build wells, we can't build septic, we can't build houses because we can't build septic, we can't build wells. But yeah, that's an issue that we're dealing with over there. So really none of us live there. We have this reservation. I have 300 members of my tribe who are displaced in the towns around the reservation. And I mean, that's the goal of Connecticut, right? Is to displace us and convert us and make us forget who we are. So it's been an ongoing battle. So now in Connecticut, you know, or not just in Connecticut, but we've been working with New York, with the Historic Society in New York. We've been getting our people back in touch with each other.
Which has been a huge undertaking, but a blessing at the same time. I'm Schaghticoke. I can date my family back to 1800s, and since Hawk has been chief of the Schaghticoke First Nation, I've had an opportunity to have all my cousins and myself complete our paperwork so we can be part of this wonderful opportunity. And we're lucky we can go back to the 1800s and trace our history. Some people don't have that opportunity. As clan mother, as newly elected clan mother of the first Schaghticoke First Nation, it's extremely important to go back to tradition, to have ceremonies, to teach the young children what it means, how to have a funeral service and do it right, how to just greet each other, how to get up every morning and say the prayers is extremely important. And as a clan mother, that's my job, is to start teaching again what I was lucky that I was taught.
So, as a newly elected
Yes.
clansman, what would you like to see for the future?
Definitely the culture center. I think that's the biggest thing, because there we will have the opportunity to teach and learn as a tribe together, and to go back to the way of we taking care of each other. We live in a world now that it's what's the right word? You take care of me, I'm most important than no one else.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't want. I want my children to know who they are, my grandchildren to know who they are, and then me to remember who I am, and to keep that going. You know, I'm lucky that I had a great-great-grandmother that taught me, and my grandmothers and great-grandmothers and those ancestors that taught me, and wasn't ashamed. And that's the other thing that we have to teach our children today, not to be ashamed of who we are and where we come from. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of who I am. And I think that's what's important, teaching the children, and to get involved. Because the truth is, we're not going to be here. Hawk and I are not going to be here forever. So at some point, our children have to take over and to know who they are and represent. You know, we live in a world where drugs and technology is taking over our children, and we can't continue that. We're going to lose the children. We're going to lose our bloodline. We're going to lose our name.
And there's not one family that's not touched by that, Cheif.
And that's a huge thing with the children today.
And you mentioned about the cultural center, just like we did. The cultural center is very important to you to get that up and going.
It absolutely is. I mean, like I said, we're just bringing, it's been hard enough to get our families to talk to each other,
Sure.
to get them back together, and like I said, we're so dispersed through not even like 100 years. We're talking about like 20, 40, 60 years. of removal from our land. You know, so getting that back and getting back who we are is crucial, and the cultural center will bring that, because this gives us an opportunity to get everybody in the same place again. It gives us an opportunity to bring our language back. Language is paramount, because through language comes your traditions. You know, we have to get that back. Our children have to have some kind of focus.
And direction that's going to keep them away from all of the negativity in the world that we live in. And that's what's grabbing hold of these children, and that's why they turn to drugs and turn into crime and everything, because they don't have traditional values that they're growing up with.
You're so separated from each other.
Right. And that's what's so important, is to be together in the gatherings, having family time as a tribe is so important. I remember growing up going to all these Native American meetings and ceremonies and attending them. Now it's like my children don't want to go because technology got a hold of them. And I appreciate what I learned. And that's what's important, is learning those skills again. Learning how, the cultural center, they'll learn how to weave a basket if they need to. They'll know how to eat off the land. They'll know how to wear their own clothes, and we won't be so caught up in what's happening in society. Name brand this and the fashion of today, when they will learn how to do these things, how to make a pot of soup by scratch, and giving it back to the land, giving it back to Mother Nature, which we stop. I grew up growing up with the meals, and you always left a plate outside for nature. We don't do that no more. It's like, why are you doing that? If I was to do it in my neighborhood where I live now, what are you doing? They wouldn't understand. But I understand it, and I remember. So I think that's what's important, is to give that history lessons back so they can continue.
And this is what the cultural center.
And the good thing about this, about the cultural center, it's not just us. You know, yes, it's us. Yes,
Right.
Yes, it is us.
Right.
It's bringing our families back together and getting our kids more involved in who they are, so they have more pride in themselves than they might not want to go and drink their lives away or do drugs or have to be better than everybody else. Which the competition in schools today is ridiculous.
It is.
But it also gives them a sense of purpose and pride in who we are. And, if her son or daughter has a drug issue, you have family right there that can help, instead of being so separated from each other and feeling like you're all alone. And you can't tell me that doesn't happen all the time. We just had Ed Wolfwalker's son passed, and maybe if we had more of a tribal structure and more, and this goes for a lot of tribes. This isn't just us because we're separated, but the federal government has separated us even worse with money. And this is an issue that a lot of tribes don't even recognize, is that this greed and this money is separating tribes right down the middle on their own reservations, where these families need help and the other families are so worried about losing what they're handed that they're not even helping the other half of the tribe. You've seen it. You've seen it. That's the federal structure. That's that. What they're trying to do is divide and conquer, and they're doing a beautiful job. This is the federal recognition, and the federal process has been the most devastatingly perfect system to go against Native Americans.
What I don't like about the federal piece is the people they have elected, or the people who are in position to make these decisions, don't have no knowledge of what a Native American is. They just going by what they see on paper or what they heard. They have no knowledge, and they are making rules based on money value and not on about tradition and culture and heritage. And I think that's the problem. And that's dividing us. It's about who we are deep down inside. What is our bloodline? What's our culture? Where's our history? Where's our ancestors? I accompanied a hawk to Dover, New York, and I felt so at ease and at peace, learning where my ancestors came from. And it just gave me an inner peace that I needed. And it was an amazing moment, but it's also a moment to think about what our ancestors did to keep us alive.
For us to not only reteach our kids, but to bring other kids in the community, to involve the community in what it is to work with the land, what it is to get back down to basics, to get back down to what's important. You know, we are all related. You know, the medicine wheel isn't one color, as you know, and it's just as precious to us every section of it. So if we don't lead by example, nobody's going to know where to go. So to have this cultural center, and this is just one of, I can imagine this happening all over the world. And you know that I work on a global scale. To have this in these local communities that are so drawn down from the day-to-day monotony and the drugs and the easy way out would be great for everybody. This would bring the communities together. You know, we're talking about arts, we're talking about music, we're talking about culture. Remind them who they are. We're all tribal people when you come down to it. It's just we've forgotten.
Forgot where we came from, forgot who we are.
Yeah.
And I know I am the clear mother of the tribe, and I'm so grateful for that position. My day-to-day job is a substance abuse counselor, and I see it, the drugs and addiction, and so much that sometimes when I'm sitting across the desk and dealing with a client, I'm shaking my head, and inside I just want to hold that individual, because society helped make that individual where he or she is at. Drugs today, you go back before, when our ancestors were fighting for us, I doubt very seriously these man-made drugs were around. They killed them, you know? And we have to go back to saying, what is it that we want for our future generation? And one thing we know, the earth is dying. And why? Because of all of the stuff that's being neglected. Farms are not popular in the urban cities. Culture Center is a one-day event, or once a year.
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm Indian on the weekends.
Yeah. You know?
I see it all the time.
And that's sad. You know, in my office that I work, I keep my pictures up. I'm not putting my Indian artifacts down. But at some places, you can't have nothing because they look down at you. Why? This is who I am. And I'm proud of who I am. And more people be proud of who they are, we'll have a better world.
I also want you to get into the image
Oh.
of what TV has made what a Native American looks like.
Oh, growing up, I had that issue. You don't look Native American. I said, well, can you tell me what a Native American looks like? Because I'm confused. I know who I am. I know where my great-grandmother came from. Okay, so tell me, I don't think no less of Hawk because of the color of his skin, and he thinks no less of me because of the color of my skin. We understand we come from the same. And we have to remember what our ancestors had to do to survive. And who they got married off, some against their will. And we have to remember that when we talk about what a Native American looks like. You tell me, I know where I come from. So because my great-great-grandmother married someone that didn't look just like her takes away from who I am? No. I am who I am. I know who I am, and I'm proud of who I am. And I think no less of Hawk because his skin is lighter than mine. We are the same. We are one. And we come from the same ancestors. Based on history. Look at your history. Your history is there for a reason. We know what happened. We know there was a lot of marriages that was against people's will. We know children were adopted out. We know children was kidnapped. We know that exists. So you tell me what I'm supposed to look like. I know what I am inside. And that's what I teach my children. And my children are every shade. I have light children, I have dark children. They are still my children. They know who I am. And I know what my great-grandmother looked like. I have her pictures. I have my birth certificates. I know my history. So what are we telling other children? Oh, you have to look a certain way to be Native American? Then look at the world around us.
Absolutely. You know, don't be afraid to have pride in who you are, and don't watch TV to find out who you are either. You know, we all know what we go through. You know, it's important for kids to realize that because the stereotype is killing us. You know, you're not Native enough. You're not any culture. You know. With blacks, you're not black enough. Oh, you have white in your blood. Or with natives, you have black in your blood. Or you know, you don't look native. You're too white. My dad, if you looked at my dad, you'd think he was black. You know, it's all there. It doesn't matter. It's not the stereotype. I think that's really killing people too. I think not knowing who you are kills you. Especially, and schools are vicious. Kids are vicious.
My daughter went through it.
You don't have the best of the best. You're different. Vicious. So many suicides are just from that.
And you have hatred within family. I have one daughter who is dark, and I have one daughter who's very light. They're both my daughters. There's no denying they're my daughters. And I've heard my daughter has heard it through school system. Oh, you must have more white in your system than your sister. How could that be? They're both my children. Don't stereotype because what their skin color looks like. Look at their paperwork and what did I write down. I'm not going to lie about who they are. And that's what I think we all have to pay attention and teach our children and teach other people. Don't look at me and just assume.
I think that's one really good thing that's going to come out of the Cultural Center is giving kids pride in who they are. You know, giving them direction and letting them know that the cover of the book isn't what it's all about. You know. So yeah, I'm really excited about what's going to happen with this.
And Dover was very open to it. They treated us beautiful when we went up there.
Yep.
So I think, you know, when you see people treat you with respect and dignity, it makes you feel much better about yourself. And when we went to Dover, it did that for us.
Yeah.
And what's your next? You talk about the Cultural Center. And what you want to bring to it.
Well, like Cody says, we're not standing with our hands out. We're not going about this in anger, like you owe us, you know, because I think that we fall into that too much. Yeah, we're angry. Yeah, of course we are. But that's not going to fix anything. You know, if we keep approaching all this in anger and say, you owe me, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to just be angry until you pay me or whatever it is, we're never going to get anywhere. So what we did was we formed a 501c3 in New York, a corporation for Schaghticoke First Nations under education and religious organization, and we are looking for possible ways of funding, but we're not sitting on our butts hoping somebody gives us a handout. We are talking to the locals. We are getting the interest there, getting support through local groups such as I don't want to put any names out there right now, but
One thing I will say just to back Park up in this is what we recently did is actually put it to our members.
Yeah.
We put it to our members. Can you help us? Can you help yourself by helping the tribe? And that went over very well because they understood, wait a minute, you're right. This is me. This is us. And I think that's what's important too, is letting our members know we are one. And if we can help each other, and it went well.
Oh, I think it went very well.
They all came to the plate and said, okay, what do I need to do? And that's bringing the unity back and bringing the connection back.
Reminds you that you're part of something, instead of sitting home waiting for a check. I call, the Native American welfare system. So no, that worked out really well, and it brings people pride in who they are, to actually contribute and see something come from it. So yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to what we see for the future, and and we on an international level, I mean, we're doing our little part to stay green and clean. We'd like to be completely off the grid with our cultural center, photovoltaics, wind energy, and even keeping it low energy. You don't have to use all this energy. You don't have to be 220 on everything, and there's ways of doing it where you're using very little energy at all, and any energy that we're not using, we give back to the grid.
The gardens.
The gardens. Oh.
The gardens are so important.
Yeah.
And also when we go back to talk about the youth with drug abuse and stuff, and we won't go back to the natural order of looking at the herbs and the vegetables and how we eat and not picking up pharmaceutical pills, it would change so much for our children. Because we live in a world, take a pill, take a shot, go see this doctor.
Yep.
The Culture Center will help you to balance that where what herb, natural herb that we're growing can help you with this. That it would be amazing if we stopped and did that. And some of this, like I said, the drug epidemic will be almost wiped out because we got to remember who made these drugs. And they push, take your child to the doctors, take this pill for this, take this pill for that. Why? They're chemical made with 10 million side effects. When we have right here in our midst herbs, vegetables, trees, what Mother Nature gave us. So that's one of the big pieces of the Culture Center is looking at that.
Reteaching ourselves. Yeah. Reteaching ourselves. And a lot of tribes are doing it all over the world. And I've also learned working with other tribes has been so helpful and getting us on the right track. So I'm very grateful to be put in this position at this time. I believe that it's the perfect time to start moving forward in the right direction. I
And
really do.
And I'm 100% behind Hawk. I trust him, believe in him. And I love where he's going. And I love his devotion and his dedication. And I've been with other Schaghticoke tribes. This is the one that I'm extremely proud to belong to.
Thank you.
That-
I love you too.
I know, working together, unity, that's important, very important, for everyone. What I want to touch on a little bit with you, Hawk, is you're with you work with the UN.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain a little bit more about, or tell what you do with the UN?
Well, you give me a little background on that. One of the most important things that we've done in the UN, well, one of, but not the most important, was getting the United Nations Rights of Indigenous Peoples passed into or signed by all the heads of state. That was huge. That was huge. They've been working on this for a very long time. I came in on the tail end of it, but I'm honored to say that I am working with some of the people that were on the front lines of this from the inception. Kenneth Deere, Oren Lyons, Roberto Barrero, Mukuro, sorry, brother. Ghazali, all these great people that I had an opportunity to work with, but that's not the most important. That just gets us in there to be able to have a voice on an international level. What we want is to help the world with climate change, climate action, get people to realize that if we don't do something about this, the world is at a point where we are about to destroy her or destroy ourselves, because you know what? The planet's going to win. The planet's going to win. We won't, but the planet will. And we are at this impasse right now where if we don't make a strong action to stop these fossil fuels and stop these crazy things we're doing to this planet, we're going to reach a point where you can't turn back. Right now we're on that. We're on that. If not slightly past it. It's devastating. Devastating. Now they're chopping down giant swaths of the rainforest and that untouched forest. They're talking about these tribes that haven't been introduced to modern day society yet. The only reason they see them is because they've chopped down half their forest. They got no place else to hide. It's ridiculous. Where are you going to get your air from? We're almost out of clean water. I mean, it's really insane that people just don't get that. That people are just not saying, hey, or is it people? I don't think it's honestly people. I think it's that it's big corporation, it's big money, and we're letting the 5 people in charge dictate exactly what's going to happen to all of us. It's insane. You're letting 5 people decide that you shouldn't have clean water. You're letting 5 people decide that you shouldn't have rainforests anymore, that we can make everything in a pill form. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Our corn is manufactured in a lab.
And we're destroying the animals that are so important to us.
Now the bugs eat this stuff. It destroys their DNA. You got
like the trees are gonna, they're not gonna produce seed anymore. I mean, it's just insane that we're allowing this to happen. Because the normal, I'll tell you what, the masses can be led, but the person is smart. The person is extremely intelligent, and they know that it's wrong. They know it's wrong. So stop listening to propaganda that it's false. Stop. You know in your heart that it's not false. It's just easier to follow somebody else.
And then what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about those subjects too. But the animals, we need the animals. My husband and I on our way here today was talking. He said he was driving and he saw a bear cub on the side of the road hit. I said, you know why? Because we're taking their land. We're destroying the place to go. And we're killing them. And we need them to survive. If we forget that, we forget who we are. We need them. We need the birds. We need the bears. We need the horses. We need the chickens. We need all of those animals to help us because it's a circle. We're all connected. Without them, we destroy the human race.
They're dictating to us what we can eat, what we can grow, what we can, like how we can't collect water. We have to drink chemically treated water. No, that's not food sovereignty. We don't even have rights to our own bodies. This is stuff that we're fighting for in the United Nations. That's what I'm passionate about as far as the United Nations. I mean, so that's just to answer your question. I know that we get sidetracked, so I just wanted to answer that.
Yeah, because I know, I watch your Facebook page. You do post a lot of good things. And there's a lot of issues out there. I mean, and unity. That's it. Only way it's going to work.
Key. It's key.
Working together, collaborating together.
Yeah.
It's the only way it's going to work. Hawk and Alonda. What we'll do is we'll end the show here, okay? And it's been an honor and pleasure
Thank you.
to have you on Oyate Speaks TV. And so you can tell your story to the people,
Thank you.
and who you are, and is there any information if people want to find out more about the Schaghticoke First Nation?
I mean, I can always be reached. I have an email. It's hawkstorm1156@gmail.com. Also, we have a few pages out there. I mean, I have, if you're on Facebook, you could always find me on Facebook under Hawkstorm. We have a few groups out there that we post stuff on, just to keep people updated, Also, look us up, look me up by name. You'll find a lot of the stuff that I've been working with just by Google search if you want. I think a lot of things are better in person, but, but you know the drill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you do work with some phenomenal people.
Oh, I'm so fortunate. Honestly, it's amazing. It's amazing. If you told me 3 years ago that I'd be working with some of these amazing people, I probably would have laughed and said you're out of your mind. But no, it's I'm very grateful to be where I'm at right now, and I'm very honored to have the support of our tribe and our families coming together. So no, it's a blessing.
And more will come. I mean, unity.
Yeah.
So that's the important part.
We're 300 strong right now. It's only going to get better.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah. So,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always an honor.
It's an honor to have you both on.
Thanks.
And so, folks, people, we're here today in Abigail Hill Farms in Sharon, Connecticut, with Sachem Cheif Hawkstorm and AlondaTPowell-Johnson, grandmother. Join us next time. Wedding Speaks TV.